Hi everybody, Jonathon, Marc, Mendes, Painted Love, and today's tutorial is all about staining wood with chalk paint by Annie Sloan. As you can see, today's project is a beautiful piece of furniture and a wonderful shape, and I'm sure it's got a lot of age. Unfortunately, it's had a pretty sore life and there's some very deep scratches into the wood. We're going to add more age and more patina to this piece of timber. We're going to use the paint stain and we're going to use it in a very different way. We have to remove the old varnish on the top of this bit, so we're going to use the true strength sander to remove the top part of the varnish, and then we can go down to the fine until we get to the natural wood. I've never done it, so we're all going to learn something together. So watch this space. Let's see how it goes. So here is where it gets a little bit complicated. All I've done is I've measured and marked out a zigzag pattern onto the timber, and I've used a pencil and a ruler and carefully mapped out this pattern that I want to put into the timber. Once you've marked out in pencil, you're going to use either a bradawl, one of these things, sharp point, or you could use electrician's screwdriver, something with kind of a bit of a sharp point, but not too sharp. You don't want it, you know, to gouge in too far. And all we're going to do is follow those lines with a ruler, and we're going to place the ruler to our lines firmly, and we're going to scrape a line into the wood. You might take a couple of passes. Seems criminal, but once we get to the waxing stage, these will hopefully show up. So there's a little groove now gouged into the wood, very slight. This is the very last one. Couple of passes, and then we'll have all the markation lines where we want them. So the next thing to add patina to the whole piece and age is we're going to put some unnatural woodworm holes into the piece. So I'm taking a nail and just tapping it in little random patterns here and there, because this, again, the dark wax will show. Not everybody likes woodworm, but I quite like the look. It gives it a bit of age randomly. So, and another way we can add age is use the back of a spoon, the soft part of the spoon, and we're just going to kind of, same thing, but gouge little marks into, so it's creating dints, because this is what happens with old wood. it gets, over years, it gets scratches and dints, and then wax builds up into them and you get dark and light patina where they are. You can still see some of the original patina on the edge of here. I hope you can see these lines in the video, but I'm not going to do too much of this. I'm just going to put the odd loose scrape and then carry on with a bit more of the woodworm, a little bit where the wear and tear would be on the edge. And then we're going to move on after this to do the wash. And all we're going to do with the wash, because I want the grains going that way and I want to create grain going in the opposite way, so artificially we're going to masking tape each one of these off, and we're going to do them individually, and we're going to add different strengths of paint so we get different tones running through each one as we go along. The first layer of masking tape is on. This is going to take quite a few passes to do it because you have to move the masking tape each time to a different side. But as you can see, I've done certain panels which are going to receive our stain, and we're going to move it all around, and we're going to keep on doing it until each one is individual covered. The reason why I'm doing that is so that we can add our own artificial grain going in the right directions, and we're going to make it so it's dark to light on each side. So the wash, let's mix up the wash. The two colours that I'm going to use is burgundy and Aubusson blue. You could use Florence, it has the same effect. So all I'm going to do is take a healthy amount of each one, about the same amount, into a pot. I'm going to leave that on the mix-it mat because we may go back for a little bit of solid colour in areas. And that should be enough. Can we see in there? And now we add about the same amount of water, and it really is guesstimating. It wants to be quite loose. And we're going to mix the two together, and you should get a deep sort of aubergine sort of colour. Mix them quite well together so it's really thin. It should be really watery, and that should be just perfect. So now this is the fun part. We're going to work on the masking taped areas, and we're going to work going with the way that we want it to go. You have to be quite careful and quick. I think it needs a little bit more water. We don't want to blot out all of the stain. So all I'm doing now is I'm just removing a little bit of the stain to one edge with a kitchen sponge to feather it into the natural wood. I'm going to leave it quite dark on this side, but take it a little bit off that side. Right, let's do the next one. This time I'm going to do it heavier to this side. What a wonderful colour that is. And this project is only going to have these two colours because I'm going to paint the bottom half exactly this colour. That's the next one. Let's get the sponge and take some of that off. What you should do is slightly see some of the grain coming through. We want that because that'll add more character. And basically, we'll go along the whole piece in this manner. Now all of the staining is complete. As I did do this, we got a little bit of bleed because the water has thinned down the paint, so we've got bleed underneath. So what I found worked quite well was to take your sponge in between each segment and just blur the edges to each section, but going in the grain, the way with the grain, so like that. So all we really want to do is create streaky wood grain patterns, because the wood grain goes that way, but we're now making it a new way with the technique. So all I've done is got the damp sponge and softened the edges, just to blur the boundaries a little bit, and this will add sort of wood grainy streaks to each piece. But for now, whilst that's drying, we're going to work on the bottom half, because this will need a good amount of time to dry. Because it's running, it will need to soak into the wood. We're going to paint the bottom half pretty much the same colour. I said only 2 colours, so I've mixed up enough to give me at least 2 coats, although I think it will cover in 1 coat. The Aubergine and the burgundy together to get a lovely aubergine colour, because this will change colour once we dark wax it. So I'm just going to do basically straight paint. I'm going to leave the handles on because these are a bit tricky to get off. So we're going to paint over them, and then we're going to rub them back, and we might add a bit of Annie's new gilding wax just to brighten them back up. But let's get some paint on and we can see this gorgeous colour. Yeah, almost 1 coverage, I think. And now for the final bit, lashings of the Annie Sloan dark wax. This should really bring out all the patina that we've put in. I'm working quick because it's just started to rain, but I'm not going to worry about that because that'll only add to the patina, I should think. So all I'm doing is covering, no clear wax, just straight on with the dark wax. Put plenty of it. Cover the whole top. Really, really heavily. So first pass, take the majority of the dark wax off. You can see it's quite heavy. And change your rag to a clean one. And you will see at the end of the video the finished picture.